Unsee the future.
Do we? It's looking less likely every week, isn't it, that we really want to look forward. But anyway, we're here now. And what a show. Should we do it? Let's do it. Hello and welcome to Unsee the Future, the Hopeychattybits with me, Timo Peach, the podcast in which I meet artists, solarpunks and changemakers, reimagining the stories we think we're in. I don't know whether you can tell if you're watching the video version of this, I do have slight panda eyes. I shamelessly lived where I live all over Easter, and we were out on our bikes and lying in fields and walking by the river and down by the sea every possible minute we could be. So that's not showing off. It's just me trying to look after myself. How did you look after yourself recently? Are you well? How was your Easter break, whether you celebrate it or not? And how are you feeling about looking forward and about the stories that surround you and the one that you think you're in? I have a very special guest today. They're special every single week, but this one seems to be adding something key to my explorations of what it means to be in stories and how we make sense of it and reshape them. Who is he? Well, my guest today is Senior Research Fellow at Deakin University, himself a bloke from the Appalach clan in the Western Cape in Australia. With born country of Melbourne and ties in the south and adoptive and community culture ties all over that massive ancient heart of the world, he finds himself known as an Indigenous thinker, an author, academic, educator, maker, arts critic, researcher, poet, and host of the Other Others podcast. Founder of the Indigenous Knowledges Systems Lab, because everyone loves a lab, he helps people explore the meaning of kinship, its implications and deeper realities, revealed especially in patterns of place, in helping people begin to understand them. He says that in the language of his family, there's no word for safe, but there are plenty of words for protection. And nor is there a direct word for culture. The nearest approximation to that means something like be like your place. Bodies in motion, bodies at rest, unstoppable forces and immovable objects. Big bangs. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, he says. Dynamic systems of culture evolve over time through these interactions. But, he adds, somewhere between action and reaction, there is interaction. And that is where the fun lies. He is the author of Sad Talk, How Indigenous Thinking Can Save the World. He is, it's only Tyson Yunkaporta. Hello, mate. Welcome to the show.
Timo.
It's good to
Timo.
meet you.
Yeah, how you doing?
I am very well, thanks. Now, it is it's 9 o'clock a.m. in Bournemouth. It is 12 noon, I'm guessing, this time of year, Mumbai. Where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Naarm, which is Melbourne, but it's actually called Naarm. It's for the moment it's called Melbourne. It'll probably go back to be called Naarm at some stage.
I hope it does.
Do that. Yeah.
It's a nice part of the world. I've been there 20 years ago and not since. So there's a lot to catch
It'd be nice
up.
for you. You're from Bournemouth.
It is.
I'm from up north. It's not nice for me here. It's like hell on earth. It's really, really, really like sort of cold and weird and kind of all mixed up.
It's not like the Northern Territories, is it?
Yeah, it's like it's a swamp that got covered in concrete and had a bunch of skyscrapers and because
that always works. That always
sprawl. I think there's a third of the population of the whole continent is all just squished in here. In one of the sort of littlest cities. It's a very hard place to be. But I've done 4 tours of Naarm now, and I've got a couple more to go, and then we're going home. Okay. But in the meantime, here we are, Bunurong country. Having a great time on Zoom after 2 years of the harshest lockdowns on the planet.
I know, man.
I'm still here on Zoom. I don't know how to do anything else now.
Well,
this is all I do.
It is convenient, at least, isn't it? You don't have to, go to places. I was going to say,
it's like how many keynotes did you do last year? Like 365. 365 keynotes, conferences I attended.
I'm surprised you didn't do more like 2 a day, 600. Yeah, go on, you can get another one. You haven't got to travel.
Yeah. No, but the other ones each day were like festivals. People love a festival right now. Which is pretty much, I don't know, it feels the same to me as an online conference, an online festival, except they have like a longer sort of, they do a meditation first.
Is that how you define the difference? Is that the difference?
Get you to do a little bit of breath work before you get started. Love that breath work.
Well, I'm going to center I feel very centered. I don't know about you today, but I was going to say up front, as ancestors and non-human kin, celestial entities, and even maybe, who knows, 1 or 2 humans in the audience are surrounding us. My first question really is this. Secretly, are you really echidna?
Nah, no, that's scaly people. As far as I know, I got absolutely no scaly connections. There's like classifications. There's a taxonomy to totems.
I thought so. I just wondered how many.
Yeah, but I'm more on the feathery side of things.
Feathery.
You were talking. Yeah.
I just pictured you having a lot of spears sticking out of you. I picture you as a kind of a translator between worlds, and that sounds tiring, man. How are you with that role?
It's pretty difficult, but it's more along the lines of the echidna story I know from back up home. It's like there's this giant sort of megafauna kind of being, which is like this kind of naked echidna kind of thing, and it just started drinking up all the water.
Right.
It just drank up all the water. And so some fellas came along and speared him. And like then people say, "Oh, is that how the echidna got his spikes?" And they go, "No, he was just greedy, so we freaking speared him and finished." That's it. And then it's a big joke and everyone laughs, but maybe that's that end of the story. But we have all these cautionary tales, and a lot of them are like antitrust sort of dreaming stories about creatures and entities that get too big for their boots and start taking up too much space, so we just kill them.
Yeah, I like that.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It just sort of lets you know, every now and then someone's going to get a bit of the old narcissism going. They're going to think they're better than everyone else. They're going to take more than they should. You just got to kill that fella straight away. Yeah. Just knock him right off his perch. Yeah. Tries to take over Twitter and turn it into titter. Then that's a spear right there.
Yeah.
Because then what are you going to call a tweet? Would that be a teat? I can't get it.
Well, anyways, Lord knows we suckle at them, mate, every day and can't get enough. Yeah. So that might be what happens.
Not me. You couldn't get me near that thing. Twitter.
It is madness. And I like the way you said I put off getting a phone, and then when I did, I saw my brain turn to mush within 2 weeks. Understood and knew why everybody's gone mad.
I did. I thought, there's something wrong with me. Like, I can't just be looking at everyone in the world and thinking they're going crazy. That's usually a sign you're going crazy. Turns out I was going a little bit crazy, but that's a whole nother story. And
that's your own.
Yeah, I just kept seeing everything changes. Like people's sleeping habits change, the way people talk, and the group situations, and right down to how people perform everything. Like everyday activities, even ritual. I noticed in much of my cultural experience, sort of started turning towards this fourth wall all the time. Yeah. Even when I wasn't there, it's just like every bit of life became performative. Every bit of discourse became like the art of the deal on steroids. Yeah. Like even around every kitchen table, I'm like, what the hell's going on, And 2016, I got that first mobile phone, and I was like a couple of months in, I'm like, that's what's happening.
That's what. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right, it's that. Right.
Ouch.
I turn to the fourth wall all the time, even when I've always said to my wife Caroline, there's always an audience, even when there doesn't appear to be one.
That's so
I need to think about that. So this,
better than the fifth wall. There's a lot of people looking up.
Right.
To a whole other thing.
Is that that might be a whole other thing.
Yeah. And then, then there's the machine elves that all the Silicon Valley dudes are seeing when they're tripping balls on ketamine. So, there's all that.
So let's bring it back to something simple then. My little exploration.
No walls.
No walls. Despite the boxes. My little exploration here is looking at the idea of storytelling. That's the frame that I have. The idea that storytelling can help us reframe the world. We all think we're in a story, and reframing our story mentally can help us engage with the world in a new way that might be positive, point us towards a life actually beyond crisis. So I want to start with a really basic word that I've fallen in love with reading your book, and it's the idea of the yarn. How do you describe that it feels like a really essential way of being in your landscape, in your community, as Indigenous Aboriginal peoples. What is the yarn from your point of view? How do you describe how it works?
Well, it's how you come into everything. It's almost like a protocol that has to happen before anything's done. Right. So bring everybody into sort of one mind, but more what we say one belly. I like that. I like that. It's like there's no point trying to take any group action before the yarns have been had. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about what you're doing either. But the yarns, there's protocols there. It's not like you've got to sit politely and wait until I've finished rambling this one either. You could just jump in, add something, build something, and not like so that there's a hard fork in the conversation, you hijack it, take in a different direction. Not like that. There's this foundational kind of protocol where you're building on all the time, building on what each other said. And I guess it's this, you're trying to find an aggregate of stories, all looking at something from, different, age, gender, clan affiliation, everything, time, place, relations, everything. So you're getting a kind of a group understanding of that. But the dialogue is with the place as well, and with the other entities, human and non-human, all around, and you're calling that. And then you got that big tail you're dragging behind you, all those ancestors and all their family and everyone else. Yeah. Any disciplines you're working with, it's like all those ancestors, not even just your own, but all other people as well that have contributed to that technology over thousands of years, and you're bringing that to the table. And it's that yarning, that sort of sharing of stories, and not just stories, but understandings of things, and opening up and giving really, valuable bits and pieces to each other and sharing in that way. That's what does it. You're not trying to make your story come out on top or dominate the other stories, or, to try and win people over to your way of thinking. You're not trying to, win eyeballs or followers or anything. You're just there, trying to be one thing together. I suppose that's what I was telling you before. I was with a group of 4 Aboriginal woodcarvers. Today we were all trying to work out the riddle of steel.
The riddle of steel.
Yeah, from Conan the Barbarian. When I die, Chrome will bring me before him and ask me, what is the riddle of steel? And if I can't tell him, he will cast me out of Valhalla and laugh at me.
Bravo there for the Arnie impression, by the way. That was excellent.
I can only do old Arnie. I can't do the post-made scandal Arnie for some reason. It sounds different. Yeah. Maybe in 10 years I get that. I do the old classic old, that one. So we're trying to figure this stuff out, and that's part of the yarn too. You got to have a good laugh. So we're trying to solve the riddle of steel, because it's like it's a mineral, and we know, we have a relationship with rocks. We understand that rocks are like these long-lived sentient entities that they were around when we were being created. Before that, billions of years, they've seen everything. All the patternings of everything that's happened in that landscape is encoded into them. But then also, whoever's picked that rock up and used it, there's more, it's like it absorbs knowledge, a rock. So we're thinking, how does that work with steel when it's so malleable and it can take so many different forms? What's this weird polymorphic rock? And what's the dreaming of that? How can that work for us? And so, like, for the first couple of hours, we're not talking about steel. We were talking about, woomerers and, children and, all kinds of things, black wattle and that particular tree and how tricky it is. And we were like mostly talking about our carving practice and families and where we're from and all the different seasons and just having a good laugh together as well.
You see, that seems to me, you've described a difference there between the seasonality. Wood's going to feel the seasonality in a yearly turn.
Yeah.
Rock feels seasonality across much deeper time.
Yeah.
How was that working with those two different materials? How are you finding a few sessions in turning to steel? What's it feel like?
Well, that's it, because then you're bringing that and you're sitting alongside stories in that yarn about this idea of like an Anthropocene, whereby like there's this idea of an entire season and that lasts an eon. That's kind of starting and will be in the geological record kind of thing, and so it's just trying to come alongside that big story with enough sort of humility. Together, that if you did it on your own, you'd be silly and it might drive you a little bit crazy, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But when you've got four fellas together and you're all strong together and there isn't mistrust or anything, that's why you have to have that yarn. Like, so, I don't know. So I went out this morning and it's a long way away. It's a couple of hours drive, but it's a couple of hours yarn first before we get down to it and start actually doing anything, and then we do that for an hour or two, and then it's got to be more yarning.
Well, you make a good
process things, So I just got it back.
Right. You make a good point about travel. I was going to say to you earlier that the whole idea of the yarn, how does that work in the modern world for you personally, bridging worlds for other communities that are Indigenous? How can you switch off the Anglosphere and all that tech noise, tech elves noise, and find time to yarn? But travel can help fit some. It's not quite right, but it helps a bit. Maybe. I don't know. How do you fit those timescales?
Well, together? it means I'll lose the most important part of the yarn, which is everything that happened to me when I got there. That should have taken me it should have been a week me walking to get there.
Yes.
And then there's all that story. And then I'm bringing things from along the way, but then messages from other people that I've met along the way as well. We're all supposed to do that. And then we're supposed to sit and yarn for a good week, at least. And then we'd go deep into banging away on the anvil with the steel or whatever cultural activity we're going to do. And, then we're supposed to fix all that up and, decide what. It's supposed to take time, and then it's supposed to close, and then you're coming back, and then you've got to bring all that as well. It's if you travel somewhere, you do some business like that, it's supposed to take you a couple of months. It's supposed to take a big chunk of your life, and then for many people, and that's supposed to have a big impact on all different areas going out really far afield. That's how our governance works. It's slow, the trade is slow, the tech is slow. You can't just invent something, single-handedly out of your brilliant mind. Not that that's what happens now anyway. It's people standing on the backs of geniuses who've been working for decades and then jumping up and saying, I invented the bloody mRNA vaccine. I invented that vaccine, God damn it. And I think it's evil.
Yes.
And I want some clicks.
I want some damn clicks.
Yeah, that's it. We end up here. Look. This is a steel boomerang.
Oh, wow! That will kill. That will kill.
Like out of Mad Max 2.
Oh my!
Remember that little kid had that steel boomerang? Yes. It's this one, but it was made from an old piece of reclaimed steel from like a steel mill, like from the old days when they used to get bullocks to drag the logs along.
Wow.
But what's so interesting is that you can see there's a wood grain pattern that's coming to the steel.
Wow.
So somehow we have to deal with the idea that I mean, there's a scientific explanation, but I don't want to hear it because that's not a good story. Yeah,
no,
no, that's got to sit alongside too. But it's like there's this wood grain pattern in there.
That is beautiful, Tyson.
We sit with that message of like, can that steel like take on? Can it take on, pattern story from the place where it is, from the other non-human entities it's interacting with? And if you do it the right way, can you bring that out in the steel? Like if you're properly communicating with it, which we're not yet. We're getting there. There's one of the fellas can do it, like a little bit better.
Little aside, I've got to ask, how many trees have you had to apologize to flinging that thing around?
Yeah. Oh, that was more in my my knife and axe throwing youth. That one. There's quite a few trees that helped me out with that, and took one for the team, just to get my hand-eye coordination up and all that sort of thing, which it's got to happen.
I guess. And the tree is saying, look, man, I work on deeper time than you do. I can't move out of the way of that thing.
Yeah, that's it.
This to help my listener viewer understand what's fascinating here from an outsider's point of view is how you will sit with time, turning story nodes into carvings, into artifacts and objects to try and feel into the spirit of that bit of a conversation, that bit of something that you're going to write. You carved a different artifact for every chapter of your book as you felt your way into it. What's that doing for you?
It's not just feeling my way into it. It's just that's the proper literate way of the way of doing that, through yarns with community and carving it into objects, which you then share with community members with that message, and they can sit with that object and kind of, upload that story from there. Yeah. And working that story, and it's living story. So there's so many yarns that come with that then. So it's not just what you put into that, the story, the knowledge that you carved into it, that keeps going. Yeah. And the yarns continue, and there are, understandings that are shared and built, within communities, but then across communities, and those messages spread. New understandings, are revealed as you go along. That's the real knowledge, and that's the knowledge that lasts. Knowledge that's in relation. The knowledge sits in those relationships, and it can in objects as kind of mnemonics. Yes, almost like an external hard drive. We have this haptic cognition with tools as human beings. Yeah, where they're kind of an extension of ourselves, not just of a limb, but of our neurology.
Intention.
Extension of intention. And not just intention, and not just like consciousness or anything like that, but your neurological processing. It's not all internal. It's quite a bit of it's external as well. Yeah, is that embodied cognition, distributed cognition, all these things that that have scientific names now. They're real things. So for me, that's that's the real knowledge of the book, and that's the stuff that will outlast the paper. It'll outlast the audio books. It'll outlast the servers that the Kindle version is on. It'll outlast all the paper and all those books. Those stories will keep going. And that knowledge will hold. That knowledge will hold strong, and it will keep changing over time as well. I mean, the book's already so that it's kind of like, I don't know, taking a photograph. Yes. Of someone throwing a boomerang, for example. Just, I don't know, like a silly example. It's sort of like, and then that's it. The book's just a snapshot in time. It's not the entire flight of that. And then,
of course not. And you do say that up front.
After,
Yeah, and what happens after? I'll come to that idea of consequences and patterns in a moment. But you are outlining
consequences, all right?
Well, I was just thinking how much you are highlighting the most obvious difference between a First Nations view of the world, living in the world, and the machine age that we're all forced to interact with. It's time. It's completely different scales of time, and sitting with spending. Imagine if leadership in the world sat down and yarned for a week, traveling overland, over country to sit with people. And I mean, this just seems like another universe to comprehend current leaders doing that. How do you process that contrast? Because you're standing on the threshold of those two worlds every day. How are you not going?
I respect that they can't do that, because I don't know, if Scott Morrison did that, like while he was off doing that, which I guess he's off and off doing stuff anyway, like, I don't know, having a holiday in Hawaii while half the country burns and stuff like that.
Presumably, yes.
But, like if he's off doing that, then, even if, like, I don't know, half of the G6 was doing that, all the G6 was doing that, then some bastard's going to land their Navy on your beach while you're walking around.
Yes.
Catching lizards or whatever.
Well, we were trying to be indigenous. What happened?
It's like, we just wanted to have a yarn. God. Now we're freaking occupied.
Maybe
it's like, how do you feel?
Maybe that's what the robots are for, man. We need the robots to guard the beaches while we're all off having a long yarn. They could do the snappy security.
Storming the beaches. Robot Normandy already happened. That's like, they landed already. Finished.
It's over before it started.
I know. I just know my albino autistic 3-year-old son is trying to get in the door.
Is he?
I can smell him. He smells like wet feathers. Yeah.
Does he need to come in?
He smells like wet feathers. That kid.
No. That's like father like son, isn't it? The wet feathers. That'll be. You can smell yourself there.
Yeah. No, if you see this, like, I don't know, this miniature version of Rutger Hauer, like, comes up behind me and headbutts me in the back, that'll be him. He does like to headbutt. It's like, they're powerful at 3, I tell you. It's like getting punched by a man. His headbutts. It's
low center of gravity. See, and surprise.
That's it. And no fear of consequence. He's not trying to protect his face or anything. He's just going right in.
Now that's interesting.
Leaving it all out there in the headbutt.
Leaving it all out there in the headbutt. No fear of consequence.
That's it.
There's a story you share that illustrates something interesting here. Youthful implications of not knowing consequence, where you as a young person, you paint a picture of you as a kid rain dancing, and you and the other children around you are thinking, hey, look, we can make it rain, we can interact with the weather, we can change the weather, look at our ancient superpowers, whilst the older people amongst you are looking at the consequences and thinking, right, what's going to happen when the flood waters rise, when that blows sand down onto the city, that's going to flush out to the sea. Just that idea of patterns and consequences. Yeah. This is another basic truth of thinking more indigenously, isn't it? It's kind of living with the patterns and seeing them and seeing the consequences of your action. You're not just there to study yoga so you can go, look, I made it rain. You're there to listen in and see the consequences in a kind of bullet time or something.
But that's the thing, in a way, like, magic's a real thing, but magic is, I mean, there are laws, there are natural laws for magic. You can't, like, you can't do anything big with magic. Magic's just every day, and and it'll kind of work when it wants to work. That's the other thing, but also because it's sort of the nature of it. It prevents anybody from, getting too cheeky with it, and there's always these limitations, and there's always so it just always has to be this little minimal intervention that you can do, and that's and the tool itself of magic, spirit, energy, whatever you want to call it, it's any kind of psychotechnology or, any kind of technology that we might develop to try and harness that, it can't scale.
Yeah.
It's for a place, a season, a reason, and it's kind of got to fit in with everything. And it's kind of got to be done by, a lot of old people who really know as much as they can possibly know of creation and past, present, and future to figure out, what's the good way to do it. And has to be used sparingly. The place where I did that rain dance, that place was full of all these white rocks, little white rocks, and that was like the story goes that they just kind of fell out of the sky and killed everybody because they were messing around too much with their rain dance.
Love it.
Like, they did it, and rain, abundance, and then they're like, but next time it's been a few weeks and it's getting a bit dry. I don't want to walk to that. Let's make some more rain.
Yeah.
They just did it, like a few hundred times, and then they just got slapped for it. You can't mess around. You can't be trying to scale up things like that.
Can't scale up things. Yeah, because it's knowing your place in the best possible sense. You said,
yeah, that's it.
You said this lovely phrase. It takes years of working in the rhythms of your place to tap into that kind of genius. And you were talking about the sheer variety of boomerang design.
Oh yeah, but then I don't know. It must be different for your culture, because it seems like every festival I go to, any old arsehole can walk up to me and see my aura and piss around with a smudging stick, and you know what I mean? And then,
I said this to somebody.
They're gonna heal me and do my past life shit. I'm like, wow, that's all a bit out of my pay grade. How did you get there?
How did you jump to that? I know. I said to a friend at the weekend who's Filipino.
They're all shamans.
They're all shamans. Well, we are just like an hour and a half away from Glastonbury here. It's the heart chakra of the world, apparently. So you get all kinds of people down there who can heal you, apparently.
So, and really, what did you're saying a friend said something weird to you?
Yeah, no, my friend, a Filipino friend, very wise mate of mine, Rena Atienza, who was on this show a little while ago.
Sweet.
And I said to her, should we just find people who can read auras and give us a quick health check? And she went, well, apparently, is it Steiner schools actually quietly do that? I'm thinking, who are all the people who can read auras and give us a...
Don't get me started on Steiner schools, bro.
Really?
And if you want to go down a spiritualist eugenics rabbit hole there, then let's get stuck in. That's for a lot. Do you know why they're not allowed to read until their milk teeth fall out?
Go on.
Okay. All right. So this comes from way back. All of the Steiner stuff, it came out of a body of work that was done by spirit mediums, who were communicating with the dead and finding out the truth about reality. That there are actually all these different races at different vibrations, races of human beings, and they're all kind of different species, and there are lower humans and higher humans, and there's this Aryan group of humans
that weirdly come out on top. Yeah,
but the whole Aryan thing, that got some bad press, 80 years ago or so. So they've rebranded that as Indo-European now, so it's all good.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So anyway, you it's the developmental model of everything. All right, like how we do with the idea of developed nations, or self-help personal development. Developing the land, everything else. It's that developmental model of like being a human being. You start in these lower races and you just go up every time. If you get your shit together enough and you get reincarnated, come up to the next one, it's like the great chain of being.
Yeah.
But with
from bottom to top.
Thumb knitting. Yeah. So, and tie-dyed t-shirts and stuff. Yeah. So, up you go. And basically it was the model of eugenics, all came out of that same thing. So out of that school, you get old Rudolph there, and he's writing this stuff up there. And he goes, well, so he channeled a spirit who told him that your milk teeth are the physical remnant of your previous incarnation when you were in a lower race. So, and lower races, they shouldn't be reading because they're really not smart enough to do it. So you got to wait until their milk teeth drop out before you're allowed to read. And so that's not the reasons they give now. No. I mean, not unless you've been there for a long time and you go to the real professional developments, and those ones get interesting. I read about them. Well, I tell you, that Steiner. She's a dark horse.
That's interesting. And also, I don't know what this means, but I had to have an operation to have some of my milk teeth removed in my teenage years. Because I never got any secondary eye teeth, so I had milk teeth till I was 14, wow. 15. I know, I don't know what that means.
And then you suddenly got more intelligent after that.
Well, I could already read by then, so I don't know what
it was lingering. It was lingering. Your previous incarnation as an Irishman, wasn't done yet. It had to come out in your milk teeth.
It could have been that. I don't know. I've only recently uttered the word Celtic anywhere near me because I'm used to being Anglo. I think my name Peach goes back to something vaguely Norman French. They're actually from, the Normans came from further north, although I don't look anything Viking. But I'm also half Welsh, so I'm old Britain. And I'm not quite sure where the rhythms are there, but there's something a bit probably Celtic. But
well, I think it's interesting. Like your island has just endured wave after wave of invasions for like forever, like 10,000 years of it.
I know. We're mongrels, man. But I always thought that was a badge of honor.
No, it's not just that. It's this idea that there's continuity. There's always people coming in and they're changing the landscape and killing most of you, but then kind of you just keep going. You just kind of absorb the DNA of all these invaders into you, whether they're Turkish or Beaker people or bloody Celts. The Celts invaded. All of them, they're all invaders. And you just kind of absorb it and go, oh, yeah, why not?
And then at some point it comes out in Victorian psychodrama. But I was interested. So I'm getting used to the idea that secretly and not very secretly, Britain's sort of right at the heart of an awful lot of problems. People talk about America, but really, industrialization really took off here, the Enlightenment, all those sort of things. The Elizabethan Navy starting to go, oh, hello, the north coast of Africa, we'll make friends with you. But in your book, you do talk about something. It's a bit of a relief. It turns out it was the Germans. Thank God for that.
Just blame the Germans.
Yes, I mean, I love the Germans. I always did. But if I can throw them under the bus and go, well, they did it first, then obviously.
Suppose you got a German queen, so.
I know. So,
hey!
Exactly. And we're at angles after all. So we're all freaking Germans. But that idea of the Teutonic history of the structure of education, I mean, that is Victorian, isn't it? That's where the Victorian thing came from. I can see it from what you said.
Yeah, and the Victorian eras when they're doing all the seances and unwrapping mummies and having sex parties in their mansions and all this kind of thing. This all came out of that. Victorian sex parties.
Yeah, that's exactly. I have
wearing a fez. They had a fez or a turban or a.
I have it written here, Victorian sex parties. It was in my notes, funnily enough.
That was it.
It was right there. But those ideas of the way the rhythms spread from this kind of idea of a very militarized and then systematized education system that we're still living with all around the freaking world today. It's very at odds. But how on earth do you start to try and inculcate or embody, or I don't know, all these words are inadequate, really, a different time, a different time sense of being.
I think I started answering that before. Yeah, it's really hard. It just means, okay, it's just like cultural conjugal visits.
Oh,
that's that's the best you can do. So I had a little conjugal visit today, and I got a little yarnling, a bijou yarnette that I got to have, and and a little bit of. I know a little bit of. Still, the thing is though, it's what the culture is a culture of inquiry.
Yeah.
So we had this, it's all this methodology sort of coming out with those yarns as foundation, and then building on that and finding that way to bond and then bring, those four minds together that we had today, bring it together, sit as one belly, which is where your big mind really is. It's not here, it's in your belly, and you get one belly, and you all put that to bear on something to, it's not investigating it. It's an inquiry.
Yes.
It's unfolding because you're not discovering something, because, everything in creation and everything that's ever been known and ever will be known already exists. Yeah. It's just about, it's about bringing that into story. Like, it's about dreaming that story out together, and that's the thing. So we're doing Riddle of Steel that way. But like I said, that if we wanted to do it properly and actually really find out what was going on, then that'd be a few years.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, we had a few few hours, and I don't know. It was.
Are you enjoying it?
We keep coming back to it over the last couple of months, and yeah.
Are you enjoying the steel, the change in material?
I am, because our first run at it, we did the wrong thing. We went, there's this British sailing ship, from the days of invasion, and it sunk off the coast there, and the wreck is there, and we managed to get hold of a keel bolt from that wreck.
Wow.
And we're like, all right, we're going to take this one. And you know what it was? And it wasn't like, it wasn't like one of the ones that was carrying all the convicts or anything. It was one that was carrying luxury goods for the budding oligarchs here, like pianos and and sex slaves and stuff like that. Anyway, all the luxury items, laudanum, they did like a bit of laudanum and that. No rum for these fellas. Anyway, keel bolt. We had this one. We were just like, we kind of rushed it because we kind of disrespected it. We had this kind of anti-colonial kind of, we're gonna reclaim this thing, this terrible thing, this living embodiment of our occupation, and we're gonna take it and we are going to forge it into something else. We're going to make a big steel boomerang like from Mad Max 2, and you know what I mean?
Is this a montage?
Was it? I tell you. So we just no story.
When did it?
Never yarns. All we did is complain about our partners before we started, and then we're jumping right into like completely reforge history, and we're going to have this way to go, forward into the future. We change the whole thing. We're going to reclaim it that way, and you know what I mean. But it was this disrespect for the mineral, and this disrespect for the shipwrights, and for the fellas who forged that pin, and the fellas who worked the smelter, and the fellas who had to dig that ore. It was a profound disrespect, not really looking at the lineage of that mineral, of that rock. So we didn't come to it that way, and it didn't cooperate with us at all. It just kind of, and today was all about trying to figure out how we were going to fix up what we'd done wrong there, like profoundly disrespecting a rock the way we had, coming in all, resistance, bloody insurgent, black fellas going to take back, this one. Yeah. But without thinking it through, because that's never been what our old people have done in that way, so it was arrogant of us, so we had to like try and heal that, because it went really bad. Like it cracked and everything. That steel cracked. It did all the wrong things. It didn't want to do anything that we had for it, and it just kind of went into itself and refused to behave like steel. Because we weren't behaving respectfully towards it, so it didn't respect us, and we've wrecked it. And we're like, well, what are we going to do? We can't just chuck it in the bin out the back. So we've been sitting with that for a while, and then we want to bring these other couple of fellas in. And I guess at the end of the day, of working with steel properly and coming into it properly, we've come to the conclusion that we need to take that back now to the coastline where we got it from. We need to throw it back into the ocean. Yeah. Like we need to give it back to the sea there, because that place hasn't finished doing its work with it. Yeah. And that wreck has story there now. Yes. And we can't just deny that.
No and you've added to it with
annoying it is.
You've added to it by being a bunch of chaps who've gone, right, now we're gonna do it. We're gonna make it
fucking smash it.
No, all right, you can have it back. No. Sorry.
Yeah. But can't have it. Once a boomerang, can't have it.
When you talk like this, there's I'm sensing this great difference between the labor and the fight, and a lightness that when you sit in long time with each other and listen in and move more at the rhythm of the patterns around you, that to me, I can, even just talking about it, I can feel my spirit lifting. And when you talk about fighting the system and trying to deal with the trauma and the injustice that's there, and then you're back into machine time, kind of, no, we've got to fight now. It's climate crisis now. It's injustice now. How do you?
That's it.
You just got to keep letting go, I guess. Have you, in some ways, or?
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's like this. Yeah, you do. You got to do it. It's like, for every curse, there's a counter curse. And I mean, I guess there's what you're doing here with Unsee the Future is some kind of counter divination ritual.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I don't know where it's taking me either.
Because talking in shitty ways about future events, in our way, that is a curse. And you're actually not allowed to do it from day to day.
Right.
You can't even go, you better you could say, fix the wheel on that truck before you take off. But you can't say fix the wheel on that truck or you might die.
Yeah.
You might die on the way to Hopeychattybits or whatever. You can't say that. It's you can't say that. That's a curse.
Mm-hmm.
You cursed a person, this terrible thing's going to happen.
So what do you how do you make sense of things like science fiction and futuring and sort of what if fictioning to try and embody or play act scenarios? How do you feel about that sort of fiction?
Oh, how I feel is great. I love it. It's really entertaining.
Yes, it is.
It's yeah. I mean, doing things the right way isn't that entertaining. I mean, unless you're in that headspace. But if you have to operate in this economy and you have to slave for at least a third of your life just to scrape together the minimum to keep shelter and food up for your family, you don't want to watch something good. You want to watch something bad. You want to watch Conan. You want to watch Rambo. You want to watch some crap. You want to watch the Kardashians. That's what you want to watch. So yeah, I feel great. I feel great about it.
It feeds
the whole it's evil as hell. It's amazing just the imperialist messaging and stuff of 99% of all sci-fi is horrendous.
Yeah, it is.
But I do enjoy some like eco-feminist sci-fi and there's some pretty cool little bits and pieces of Indigenous sci-fi coming out of some African writers now and from different bits and pieces around the place that I'm really enjoying as well. But then there's some of it that's just crap too.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? Some of it just feels like propaganda.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, everything's propaganda, but when it's just slapping you one.
Yeah.
Right in the face. I remember I remember going to this anti-vax thing once, and and I was like, I'm listening, and but then I seen that these children's books they were selling out the front.
Yeah.
And it was children's storybook. Measles is good. There's nothing wrong with measles, but there are evil pharmacists who want.
Yeah.
Jesus, just tell a story.
Please.
Just let the message. Don't say the thing. You don't say the thing, especially not in a kid's book. And you get in that. I mean, it really. I picked up this. I mean, great book for my kids. It's this boy whose shadow was pink, and it's you got pink shadow. Turns out, and I'm going in. Okay, so he's yes, trans kid. All right, cool. And then I know it's cool until page 4 or something in where it's and suddenly it's all caps, others that boys are supposed to be like that, and it's just Jesus Christ,
it's like
form. My grade 8 bloody gym teacher or something talked to me, the phys ed teacher, yelling at me for writing on the desks or something, and it's well, that's shitty, because I know good stuff from trans authors, and that's just shitty. And it's was that even written by a trans author? Was it just written by some Karen from Twitter who's, trying to make a point? And it's don't say the thing.
Don't say the thing.
It's literature, even children's book is high art. You never say the thing in art. You never say the thing. I don't go, That's in my poems, I don't go kill the white man. I don't. I just, I have a contemplative piece where I'm sitting on my back step, crushing a bunch of little white termites under my foot. You know what I mean? You don't say the thing directly.
That's a really good basic tip of.
That's not a real poem, by the way. I'm not advocating violence against.
termites. No.
I'm just like, the propaganda is just, when it's shitty propaganda, and that's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. Propaganda is cleverer than that. Like, get out, you're an amateur. You don't know what you're doing.
Watch some
German cinema from back in the day, and then come back and talk to me. Like,
please
watch a good look at it.
Watch some German cinema, please. I agree, but don't say the thing. That's a really good, just a little cheat. It's about emotional truth, trying to testify, feeling a testimony that something truthful. I'm very interested in solarpunk as a framework to help us think about different ways of doing things, and what we call Afrofuturism, that broad thing. It does seem there's some science fiction coming out of Africa. Is there much coming out of Australia?
Yeah.
Do you know writers?
Bits and pieces. I do. I'm good friends with two Aboriginal science fiction writers who are quite good. So you got Claire G. Coleman.
Right.
I think it's she's published out of the US through Hachette. And then I don't know how you say that. It looks like a French word. Anyway, another one, Amber and Quay Mulliner. There's heaps of good writers. But Amber and Quay Mulliner, she did like this, like Black Girl Hunger Games kind of thing.
Ooh, interesting.
She was doing, that was years ago. She did heaps of them, like this whole series, young adult fiction. And she's actually come over and joined the same publishers as me, like this sort of smaller publishing company that really focuses on quality. She does great stuff. There's some really exciting stuff coming out. But I mean, Claire, the other one there, Claire Coleman, like she sort of tweaks the nipples of almost saying she almost says the thing.
Almost says the thing.
She doesn't say the thing, but she clobbers you to death with this narrative that you can't. You're just always tripping over the thing. Like if you miss,
right, you can't have missed the thing.
If you miss the message, then you're gonna end up with a huge angry black woman in space standing over you. Did you hear me now? Do you get it? Do you get it?
Don't make me say the thing. Don't make me say it.
I'm not going to say the thing. You say the thing. I'll shoot you in the face again with this laser. She's freaking awesome. My favorite person in the world.
Oh, I've got to look her up then. This sounds fantastic. I've got to check out her work.
She did one called Terra Nullius, and she never lets. I don't know. She's one of these people who's fanatical about spoilers, so I'm not even allowed to tell you what the book's about.
No, don't.
So sometimes, she'll cut me off halfway through saying the title of a book. No spoilers. All right, man.
God. Good. She's living it.
Yeah, another one, The Old Lie. Another one there. This is the second one. She's working on another one right now. It's pretty it's like getting punched in the face over and over reading her work, but you like it.
Yeah, I like a bit of being punched in the face. I like it when things preach a bit, but
sometimes it's not preaching. It's not preaching. No, it's just punching you.
Really. This isn't preaching. It's punching. That's okay.
Like the anti-vax measles children's book. Yeah.
This is emotional truth, mate. There you go. That's right.
Yeah, but I keep coming back. I have nightmares about that children's book, that anti-vax one. It's like basically, measles is nothing. It's nothing. Get out of bed.
Get out of bed. Stop dying.
It's no worse than a cold. Shut up.
Oh, mate, I've got there's so much more we could yarn about. I don't want to keep you here long into tea time. I wanted to ask you about all sorts of things like being a strange attractor and song lines and the rhythm of that. Sounds all quite sensible to me now. I will ask you one. I just want to have to yarn with you again somewhere physically one day so we can spend a week doing this. But I will ask you what I've asked all my other guests near the end of the show. And this might be either a really easy one to answer for you of everybody, or it could be, well, I don't know, I'll spend time with it. I ask people to leave an ancestral artifact, leave it forward, just some notion, an idea, a poem, or it could be a physical representation. One thing symbolic for you that you'd like to leave forward to future generations. This feels like a really dumb question to ask you, but there it is. How do you answer it?
Well, yeah, or it's just the whole purpose of my life. That's what we need to be doing now. We need to be leaving the tools behind for the people who are coming next to do the 1,000-year cleanup,
Yeah.
And what do we leave them? Infrastructure, that'll crumble into dust. You leave them, I don't know, movies, like, no, that's finished. That'll be finished. All this rare earth metals are called rare for a reason,
Yeah.
So you can't leave them digital artifacts. Anything you carve, make, maybe something in stone, but that's just going to be like that frustrating Homo erectus bloody thing we have from 1 million years ago. It's okay, so you had abstract thought. Fuck were you saying? It doesn't help. What was better was the stuff that Homo erectus did leave behind, which was like, many, many, many generations and cautionary tales about megafauna that, the idea of things getting out of control and what you need to do about that straight away.
Yeah.
How governance systems, an absolute complete disdain and fear of bosses, that we can't have bosses. These are terrible things. You know what I mean? So you just leave behind these psychotechnologies that are carried in artifacts called yarns and stories. Because these are the only things that last. So within intergenerational relationships, grounded in country, grounded in place, grounded in relationships, that these are the only things that stand the test of time. This is the only data that doesn't degrade, like that. So that's the tools. They beyond. I'm doing that already, but mostly I want to leave cautionary tales. So I'm like, the new stories I'm finding, are sort of our cautionary tales about how all this happened here and what needs to happen to make sure that doesn't happen again. After everything winds up.
Yeah. Plus, I'm guessing you'll, do a little dance. I was going to say make a little laugh.
Sure.
No, I was just thinking of doing a little ceremony at the end of your keynote in a beige hotel room somewhere. I'm guessing that's it.
That's it. Well, look, I'm 50 now, so it's probably just going to be the YMCA dance or something.
We are the same vintage. It's a good
men of a certain age. You're going to get there. I bought my first pair of corduroy jeans the other day.
Oh,
so I'm just relaxing into those, and we'll see how we end up. But I doubt there's going to be much dancing involved unless I'm pissed at a wedding.
You don't need to be pissed to dance. I can't picture you needing the alcohol to dance. Look,
you need the wedding, though. You definitely need the wedding.
You don't need the alcohol. You do need the wedding. All right, write that down. That's more great advice, man.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to cut our story short, but I will let you go and have your evening with your crazy headbutting son. Tyson, Yunkaporta, it's been a total joy, man. Thanks for being on Unsee the Future, the Hopeychattybits.
Sweet. Hopeychatty, funny as hell. Loving your work.
Yeah, but
Unsee the Future.
Yes, there's rather a lot more I could have asked Tyson there. He is somebody thinking and living in longer time, and you do immediately want to just sit with him all day at the very least and let all kinds of eddies of conversation and ideas come and go. And I'm very conscious when interviewing here, especially, the idea that I've got some things on some hit points I'd like to strike, but it's a bit overly constructed in the conversation. My job as an interviewer is to try and sense make and pull out gold and thread things together, and I enjoy that. But it does seem to kind of, well, don't kill the yarn, man, by hitting all your points. Just follow it. And so I'm hoping that I struck a balance there between giving you some basics of understanding the context of who Tyson is as an Indigenous writer and thinker, standing as he does voluntarily, the crazy guy, between the worlds of what I'm starting to just shorthand call the Anglosphere, all of us lot in the global north, with deeper time living, First Nations, Indigenous people around the world. For him, the stories of being in Australia and Aboriginal nations, there's just a massive contrast, and we've got to start getting our head around just the idea of how fundamentally different that is, tune into it, not take on shame, but listen to those stories and how we then process the idea as in all nations with long-term conflict, how on earth we can help people of colour in the Great South, and in particular in Australia, find justice, find peace, and do that thing that I found very interesting in his telling of stories from his experience, that justice is quick and practical and then over. So you don't carry shame for what you've done. Justice is enacted, you pay your price, and everybody moves on, and that no longer defines you. And that's just one of 1,000 different things that are fundamentally different to the culture we live in. I'm interested, are you, in how we put these things together going forward? In any idea? Silly word, I'm going to come out and say it because I'm silly. I kept my milk teeth till quite old. The silliness is still quite near the surface. Redemption, redemptive stories that there's no putting the industrialized machine age back in the can. It's how can we rebalance it, which is certainly solarpunks' aim narratively. How can we just dial down the sheer noise of the matrix in order to even hear voices that are much more connected to the land and deeper time? So a huge thank. I mean, I could ramble, obviously. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. It's far too short in a way. The chap with Tyson, Yunkaporta, a huge thank you to him for joining me from the other side of the world, up here in the great global north. Now, you can find all the foundational episodes of Unsee the Future's idiosyncratic style of research, exploring the big themes of our era of crisis, along with all previous Hopeychattybits at, of course, say it with me, unseethefuture.com. There you can also find exclusive previews of the new book from my findings, UTF, How to Think Like an Artist and Change the World, 9 practices of art that can help you reimagine the story you think you're in. And I think I've seen elsewhere, Tyson's view of art is, it's constructed, it's new, we don't even need it. So I read that and went, oh, well, I'll just pack up and go home and F off then. Forget that. And I'd so nearly finished the book as well. But I think we're probably more in agreement on what we're saying there than that sounds. And for me, it's about what art actually means. If you want to know more, check it out. I've got one more chapter 8 to actually write. Chapter 9 I know is written, as is the conclusion. I'm close to having drafted a book, and you can catch up with all of it first draft, because I'm a silly booby sharing it with you online right now at unseethefuture.com, also under the heading of the book. You can encourage me by becoming a Momo Amigo and joining the Unsee the Future mailers. Please do. I like speaking directly to folk, and I get little exclusives into everything I'm doing in these episodes. And you can find out all about me as a music artist. What is the heart background context of me as a fourth wall mugger at momotempo.co, my silly, joyful, artistic noise. What story do you think you're in? And are you figuring out yet how to change it? Let's encourage the more hopeful human tomorrow. Ciao for now. And let's not forget, current single from Momo Tempo, How Big, is out now. See you soon, sausage.
How big do you want to be? We'll rule the galaxy. How much you want to get? How much you want to get? How much you want to get? Oh, not big. How big do you want to be?